Today, we are going to talk about some of the worst hunting rifles you can find. At best, they are poorly designed and just unreliable. At worst, they were downright dangerous for the shooter. So, if you want to know from which guns you better stay away, watch and learn. Number 5. Winslow Rifles. The Winslow bolt-action rifles were produced from 1963 to 1996, first in Florida, later in South Carolina. They were some really flashy firearms, coming with Douglas premium barrels and blind magazines. There were 3 different stock styles made as well as 6 grades. The bluing incorporated a special cyanide hardening bath and even made Colt's royal blue look cheap in comparison. It was a brilliant true black that seemed to be bottomless. The Bushmaster, their basic stock, looked like a scaled-down Weatherby Mark V. The Plainsmaster, the most extreme version, looked like it came straight from a Buck Rogers movie. It came with an elaborate basket weave carving instead of a checkering. Also, it had superb ivory on ebony inlay work done, and you could get one with gold inlay and engraving. The top of the line was the Emperor Grade Winslow, and one of them was kept on full display on the legendary 7th floor of Abercrombie & Fitch. In short, these were fine rifles, built by some of the most talented people you could find. So why are they here on this list? Because they are also way too heavy. They are oddly shaped for something to work, and way too shiny. Whatever you go after, it will see you long before you catch a glimpse of it. Also, they are so valuable that you just do not want to use and abuse them time and again. Number 4. Sporterized World War II Arisaka. This is a gun that the young generation just does not know anymore. In World War II, the Japanese used 2 types of infantry rifles. One was the Arisaka Type 38, which was issued in 1906 for the first time. It was chambered in 6.5mm, and it was replaced by the Type 99, which appeared in 1940 chambered in 7.7mm. These rifles, plus their carbine versions, made it into the U.S., mostly, of course, as war trophies. However, they did not just stay as a mantelpiece, but also became hunting rifles. Both of these rifles are Mauser derivatives, while being simple, unrefined, and super reliable. They are almost indestructible. Today, some are close to the original, some have a lot of work done to them, some have sporterized stocks. They are still sound enough to be used and to withstand wear and tear. However, actually using them, you will discover their downsides. They are just plain crude, no matter how you try to tinker with them. They feature a just odd rotating knob safety at the rear end of the bolt. To use them, you have to push it in and turn it a quarter clockwise, then release it again. Over time, they do wear out, which can cause the rifle to fire when you release them. However, the worst of them are the last-ditch Arisakas. These were Type 99 made in the final days of World War II. They were in fact just handles for bayonets, as all the shortcuts that were taken made them. Number 3. Winchester Model 100. The Winchester Model 100 was a semi-auto gun that hit the market in 1961. At that time, Winchester managed to be at its worst when it came to quality control, so this gun had almost no chance to make it. It was produced on worn-out machinery during simmering labor troubles. Interestingly enough, when you look at this gun, you see something beautiful. It is sleek, it is streamlined, and it just wants to be taken into the woods to do its work. If you follow its call, you will, however, encounter quite some problems. The first thing you might feel is that the trigger is just awful. Winchester started with a bad one on this and just never made it better. Then, there was the great lack of accuracy. The stock was made of wood with great slabs gouged out of it. That made it hard to stabilize the rifle. There might have been some Model 100s that managed to hit something, but mostly it was just not up to the task. Over time, with wear and tear, it was necessary to keep the rear bedding screw torqued down properly or you would get the bolt jammed. There was even a recall from Winchester for the Model 100s in 1990 because the firing pin was also affected by wear and tear and jam protruding from the firing pinhole. That led to slam fires without a fully locked bolt, which itself created quite some firework-like moments following it. Last but not least, the Model 100s were just picky when it comes to ammo selection. If you found one type that actually did work, you had to stick to it, as it might be that the next one was less lucky. The production run did not last that long, and already in 1973, it was ceased altogether. Number 2. Savage Model 340. The Savage Model 340 is a bolt-action rifle and a testament that a really bad design does not lead to only bad guns. Some of them work fine, some don't, and some are just catastrophic. When it came out, it could be had for quite a good price, just $59.95. It was cheap, and this was obvious. The parts were stamped, the guns riveted, and they were assembled with total indifference before they got shipped without any polishing. In fact, until 1969, they were so cheap that they even came without any serial number. True to itself, the trigger was just bad. There was a lonely barrel band that held the barreled action, and the receiver was split on the top. It would even require a side mount. Disassembly necessitated time and patience while you worked very, very carefully. Otherwise, the ejector and its spring would just fall out. It fed from detachable magazines, which was great, but they featured extra thin walls and were made from pot metal. The extractor was another highlight. Being weak to begin with, it was not able to do good work, so you had to help time and again. Now, all of that should land the gun right on the trash heap of history. But this is not the case with the Model 340. Produced until 1985, it somehow developed into something that can be considered a desirable firearm. If you take a lot of time, you might be able to find one for no less than $500, but you will most probably have to pay more than $1,000. Number 1. Ruger Model 44 Deer Stalker. Born as an idea of Bill Ruger and introduced in 1961, it was on the face of it a fine gun. Chambered for .44 Magnum, gas-operated and semi-auto, has a carbine not too big nor too small, not too heavy, not too bulky, so everything you might want. When it came out in 1961, it had a price tag of $108. That is some $1,000 in today's money. At 100 yards, getting 3-inch groups on paper was no problem and good for its time. So, what is the problem? First, it was the name. The gun came out and Ithaca came to Ruger informing them that they already had a slug gun that was called Deer Stalker. So, it was either dropping the name for Ruger or face the consequences. Next was the fact that it was gas-operated. What happens with such a system when you shoot lead bullets? Right. They shave off and the lead blocks the gas port. Even worse, as a semi-auto, it was of course tuned to the power of the load. In other words, shoot anything but jacketed full-power .44 Magnum and the gun would just not cycle. Grease from the ammo also had a tendency to build up in the tubular magazine. The magazine itself could not be disassembled, making it hard to clean. With all the buildup inside, it could keep the gun from feeding. Bad enough? You think this is all? No. There is one more detail that is even worse than what had come until now, as everything else could be somehow taken care of, and be it by meticulously cleaning the gun. So what can be worse than all that? I'll give you a hint. It is something that you cannot solve by cleaning or repairing. In this case, this something was the trigger group. It came with an aluminum housing that would crack over time. And the bonus is that this could not be repaired. The gun did have its fans, and it actually stayed in production all the way to 1985. There are also still parts from Ruger available, and oddly enough, there are also tactical versions as rebuilds on the market. There you have it, guys, some rifles that are just bad, and you better stay away from them. If you have another example, please let us know in the comments.